Now, big question, riot after riot, police in the firing line. Was the police caught out or is it a soft target? Can the police now ensure a fair probe? Importantly, what will it take to stop this cycle of violence? Just some of the questions that I'm going to raise today, and I'm joined on a top policeman roundtable. Some of India's most distinguished police officers are joining me. Neeraj Kumar is former Commissioner, Delhi Police. Yashovardhan Jha Azad, former senior IPS officer, former Special Director, Security in the Government of India. Dr. Ajay Kumar Singh is former DGP, Karnataka. And earlier I spoke to Julio Ribeiro, former Police Commissioner in Mumbai, former DGP, Gujarat and Punjab. Let me start with a question that I asked Mr. Ribeiro. Mr. Ribeiro, we've seen a spate of communal flare-ups in the last week, the latest in Delhi. What is your sense? Politicians blaming each other, communities blaming each other. As a police officer, where do you stand?
Well, they can blame each other, but I, as a police officer with my experience, I can tell you that it is a very calculated move, and I don't know what they are going to gain from this, because if you have this type of disunity in the country, it will only affect our security. And a government which swears by security, I mean, is really, I'm surprised.
But there is
I don't know what they want.
But what we are seeing is some element of planning. The Shobha Yatras very well organized, as well as those who are organizing themselves, allegedly targeting these yatras with stones. So you've got Hindus and Muslims coming face to face at these processions in mixed neighborhoods. Again, as a police officer, what would be your solution to actually ensure that such processions pass off peacefully? Why is it only now that Ram Navami procession, Hanuman Jayanti should become so vulnerable?
Well, first of all, they have never taken these processions earlier. You know, the ones that Ram Navami procession and the Hanuman Jayanti procession, these are something new. We had processions on other occasions, but we take normal precautions. We don't allow them to shout, play loud music in front of the mosque. Now they are doing all that with impunity, and the police are allowing them and just standing around. They take made no efforts to stop them. I'm really surprised.
So I must mention, though, police officers did get injured. While you mentioned the role of the police and you're surprised by the police's role, what should the police do? Because the police, Mr. Ribeiro, say they did not give the permission to this rally that went violent. If they did not give permission, many will ask, how did the rally take place in the first place, go out of control? What should, in your view, be the role of the police in such situations? Is there a question mark over policing itself?
You know, I would have, if I knew that this was going to happen, I would have picked up all the mischief makers in the beginning. We would keep them at the police station till this whole thing was ended. It's really surprising that they have been allowed to even go through that locality. Even in Goa, which has never had such a problem before. Never. You know, Rajdeep, your father is from Goa, I am from Goa, and we have never had this communal trouble. Now suddenly they are talking about it. They have gone through that small Muslim population of 2%, I think now a little more because of influx from the Karnataka. But otherwise, I don't know why they went there and for what reason and what was their intention. I mean, look, if they are bothered about the electoral fortunes, then if they have already won that battle, and why are they continuing? Is it to get the people's attention away from the economic condition? That could be, but finally, in the long run, it is going to cause a lot of problems for us. I don't think it is good for the country at all. And if you are a real patriot, as you say, then I think you should rethink this strategy. This strategy is not going to be good for the country.
Let me widen this, take now reactions from the others. Neeraj Kumar, you've been a Delhi police commissioner. Does the buck stop with the police? Does it, at the end of the day, is the police unfortunately caught in the line of fire between two communities hostile to each other on the ground? Where does the buck stop, Mr. Kumar?
First of all, Rajdeep, I'm sorry I have to stick my phone next to my ear because of some audio problem. I could not connect with the program, and in the process, I missed the earlier part of the program. Our job is such that we have to be caught in the crossfire when such situations happen, and we should be prepared for that. And the fact that in this incident, most of the injuries have been suffered by the police officers, and one of them has been shot. And the fact that the situation was brought under control quickly, the police prevented the situation from flaring up and becoming a major conflagration. That are the positives. But some of the negatives, as you rightly pointed out, why was the procession allowed in the first place if it had not got its permission? Secondly, what was intelligence about the procession? Was there, the central agencies are based in Delhi. The Delhi police has its own special branch. I wonder what kind of intelligence was there with the police. The police has its own beat staff. They also collect intelligence. So all that will have to be probed and gone into and investigated for anyone to point fingers at anyone in particular.
Right.
But suffice it to say that police is caught in the crossfire. That's our job. We cannot shy away from that. And that's how it is.
You know, Yashovardhan Azad, you want to also give your sense? I mean, are you surprised by just what we've seen over the last week? It's not just been Delhi. You've had state after state, about half a dozen states where these riots have taken place, more or less a similar chronology, if I may use that word. In each instance, processions taken out, some very ugly slogans, then stone pelting, two communities coming face to face, and an unfortunate communal flare-up in all these cases. Is there a pattern you detect?
My first 2-3 observations are, see, there are 7 states which are involved. Half of them are BJP and the other half are non-BJP. The states have uniformly failed in controlling the law and order. Number 2, it's very funny watching the states complaining like children. Somebody is blaming the PFI and somebody is blaming the Hindu Wahini and the rightist wings. It's the job of the state to control these riots very firmly. Number 3, in all these cases, if you've seen, at the point, the police has dithered to take action. In the present case which you're talking about, in the case of Delhi, the 2 processions were given permission, but in the third case, there was no permission. On that particular day, Hanuman Jayanti day, the entire police machinery was geared up. The entire control room was on the alert. There was intelligence that it would be something. Once both the sides are very prepared. To say that only one side is to be blamed is absolutely wrong, because the stone pelting was heavy from both sides. Now the question is, if the police, and naturally they had the information because they put a posse of policemen with them during the procession. But that was the time when you have to pick out the mischief makers and you have to detain them. That is the first thing that they should have done. Number 2, they were carrying arms. They were carrying naked swords. That was another point to ponder upon. And the third point is that when they came to the mosque, and I'll tell you, this is a sequence which has been happening for the last 50 years, Rajdeep. This is nothing new. Whenever you have a procession, there is a perfunctory peace meeting, there is a kind of a route drawn up, but ultimately in front of the mosque, day after day, the thing happens and the police does not take the action. Thereafter is the easy part now to arrest some from this side, to register cross cases.
You're saying preventive action.
during time.
You're saying preventive action should have been taken. Ajay Kumar Singh, former DG Karnataka, again a very distinguished police officer. In many ways, it all started in Karnataka a few months ago, and now we are seeing it building up in state after state. The slightest provocation, and you have two communities face to face. Are we sitting on a volcano? Is this where the police, as I keep saying, are caught in the crossfire?
You see, I would like to say that the communal flare-ups, as we all know, have at least two distinct aspects. One is the local or the immediate issue. In this case, some procession or something may be there. The other one is the larger ecosystem. Now, we are most of the time trying to tackle the outcome of the larger ecosystem, and then it flares up. And so unless we are in a position to change this larger ecosystem, this recurrence is not likely to stop. That's what I feel.
Now, what do you mean by the larger ecosystem, Mr. Singh? What do you mean by the larger ecosystem?
The larger ecosystem, the narrative which is going around in the country today. You see, communal, I think to the maintenance of communal harmony, it is crucial that we understand and accept differences. That's crucial to maintain communal harmony. And these differences, particularly the cultural and religious differences, we have to understand and accept. Now, this I am not saying for police officers. They know this. They have different job to do, but that is part of the larger ecosystem. So unless that narrative changes, these flare-ups keeps happening, and then the police are caught in the crossfire.
So you're not going to blame local intelligence. You're not going to blame the fact that there are, you need better local intelligence to identify who these criminals are. I mean,
I'm coming to that.
Yes.
I'm coming to that. Impartiality and swiftness of action is again the other point, which is exclusively the police domain, the administration's domain. So that we find that here often, I dare say, often we are failing there. The administration is failing, that either swift action is not taken or action as per law is not taken. There is hesitation.
Right.
Now, there may be many reasons we will not discuss here, but there is hesitation. And unless that impartiality and rule of law is very important, unless...
Now, what do you mean by hesitation? So I'm sorry to press you. Are you saying that the police are constantly looking over their shoulders whether they should arrest a particular individual or not? What will be the political repercussions?
I get that sense. I get that sense. If you look at number of incidents, not this one, I'm not talking about this one, but if you see what has been happening for last 1 year or not earlier also, you find that often police are found hesitating in taking immediate action against the culprits, including the preventive action, as Mr. Rivero and other friends said that. I mean, it used to be such a routine practice that on such occasions when you suspect that there might be a problem, the non-depredators and you take, there's a law to take action against them.
Right.
And that we do not know whether it was done or not. I think there are some hesitation, which is resulting in this trust deficit. You see, if one of the party has trust deficit, then again problem sort of compounded.
Let me take what you're saying just now to, in a way, to Mr. Ribeiro, because Mr. Ribeiro, you are seen as the grand old man in a way of the Indian police. My late grandfather, 1943 IP batch, under whom you served, used to say often, no riots take place unless the police are either incompetent or complicit or both. Do you believe that the police has reached the state of complicity or incompetency or got politicized and therefore is unable to stop this cycle of violence or be even-handed in such situations? Is that a real concern?
See, Rajdeep, your father and I worked in different times. I mean, we were not under the thumb of the politicians at that time. But now what has happened is they are actually running the force. And their writ runs. And if the party is in power, it gets the police to do exactly as it wants. This is the tragedy of our policing system. And the rule of law has been totally disregarded. There is no rule of law. It's only the rule of the party in power. And whatever they want, the police do. I mean, this is something, I would not have been able to work under such circumstances. Unless the police know that I am their boss and that my writ runs, how can I control that force? I mean, this is what is happening today.
You know, but there will be those, Mr. Ribeiro, who say that in some of the minority areas, the minorities are pretty well organized. You know, in terms of the fact that what explains the fact that you've had this stone pelting at the police, shooting at the police, policemen injured, whether it's Madhya Pradesh or Delhi, we've seen pistols being fired, leaving police injured. Is it a case damned if they do, damned if they don't, and then they get caught in the crossfire as police officers? If they're going to be shot at, what does that show? Or they're going to be stoned?
You see, Rajdeep, my experience has been that the minorities are always on the defensive. I mean, they prepare for their defense in such circumstances. And the underworld, which is unfortunately controlled mostly by people from the minorities, they they help the minority. Their own co-religion is to prepare for their defense. This is common everywhere, and it is going to happen. And what do they expect them to do? Now, if somebody goes with open swords, with a procession right through their own localities, past their mosques, shouting provocative slogans, what do those people do? They don't know whether the next attack will be on the mosque. And I think that they are just preparing for their defense. If they don't want them to defend themselves, then it's very, I think it's unnatural. People are not going to just stand there and say, all right, kill me. That happens only with martyrs, and these are not martyrs.
You know, Yashovardhan Azad, a lot of this is also playing out in the age of social media. Viral videos will come out showing one side or the other. Is that making it even more difficult to police these communal flare-ups? When you, in the early years, I'm sure as a police officer, you didn't have to deal with social media. Now we have images of one group throwing stones, you have another group with swords, brandishing swords, the kind of ugly slogans we've heard. I mean, does that make it even more difficult now to stop this cycle of violence?
But mind you, Rajdeep, we didn't have the advantage of technology either. We didn't have drones, which can easily spot things from the air. You have helicopters now, which can run above the processions. We didn't have videography. We didn't have so many of these things. So with the advantage of technology, there are many things we should do, but we couldn't do it then. But yes, social media is perhaps one of the biggest nuisance. And the videos which are posted from both sides rarely give an unbiased picture. But I would definitely say, to say that only one community is defenseless, that is absolutely wrong. There is a very, very aggressive action on the part of the community. In fact, most of the police officers who were injured, they were shot at. That shows that both sides were equally capable. I again come back to my point that the action which should be taken at the spot is the real leadership, which has perhaps been dithering to take it. Mind you...
No, what is the action? Yashovardhan Azad, let's be specific. What is the action? We've seen, post the event, we've seen the bulldozing of homes of rioters in Madhya Pradesh. Many believe that sending out a signal to rioters that this much and no further. We've seen yesterday only in Hubli, where a social media post led to the police being geared out. The police have finally arrested a number of people. And in Delhi, we are now seeing arrests being made. Are you telling me these arrests should have been made preemptive? Are you saying they would have known in advance?
There are two things which I am saying very clearly. One is you anticipate what is going to happen, and it is not a rocket science because everyone knows that the preparations are being done, whether in the mosque or with the procession walas who are going through the mosque. Either you effective preventive arrests. Number two, you clear guidelines you give that no arms will be carried during the procession. You will also say that there is no provocative, allegations to be made and the slogans to be made. But the most important point is, whenever the conflagration is about to start, you shoot or you take very, very stern action. taking action post everything is easy. Bulldozer action is wrong. That is about encroachment. That should have been done a year back. That can be done later. That is not the action. But even this action, arresting cross cases, this is a very simple thing to do. And will this in any way prevent further riots from happening? No. It will only prevent when you take decisive, resolute action either before or on the spot at the point of conflagration.
Ajay Kumar Singh ji, your view, do you believe that the only way now to stop this is to have preemptive action or exemplary? You know, today the Home Minister today has said apparently to the police, I want exemplary action. Amit Shah has said, I want to see exemplary action. I'm not yet sure what that means by exemplary action.
You see,
yes, go ahead.
You see, Mr. Rajdeep, actually nobody need tell police what to do. It is all written down in the laws. Rules are very clear. And therefore, somebody is saying that that is the problem now. That people, perhaps even police leadership is expecting somebody else to say that take action. No, they have to take action on their own. What I was about to say is that you raised the question about competence of police, whether it's doubtful. I have no doubt that our police officers all over India, they are absolutely competent and capable of handling any situation, provided they are giving support, they are given clear instructions, they are given freedom to act as per law, and this freedom to act as per law, that is the problem. Police leadership has role to play in that, and also we can't rule out, as Mr. Rivero said, respected Mr. Rivero, that the political leadership today has overtaken everything. So unless these two come together, the political leadership and police leadership, it's difficult to control. But even if political leadership is not willing, I will say that it is the police leadership, by which I do not mean only the Commissioner of Police, because the district is SP and DC. As per even guidelines of Government of India, the SP and DC, the collector and the superintendent of police are jointly held responsible to maintenance of peace and harmony, communal harmony. So they have to, even whether they are, it will be very easy to control these things if political leadership and police leadership administration come together. Even if they are not on the same page, I will say it is.
But sir, in a case like this, does that mean that those who have been seen on camera firing guns like Sonu are arrested, as well as those who actually went ahead with the yatra brandishing these swords, even though the yatra had been declared illegal? Or no permission
all
was given?
of them. Yes, action must be taken against all those who have violated any of those laws. About this note, that's what I meant to say, that there should be no hesitation in doing that.
Right. You know, in a way, Mr. Ribeiro, after the 1992 Mumbai riots in Maharashtra, you and other citizens, police officers formed Mohalla committees, bringing Hindus and Muslims together. Do you believe now this needs to happen nationwide? Mohalla committees in every Mohalla, so that a sense of community is built in, so that tomorrow, whether it's a Ram Navami procession or Muharram procession, they can take place peacefully.
See, Rajdeep, in all the slums of Bombay, we had established these Mohalla committees, and they were very successful. Even the police commissioners all told me, each one of them who succeeded the other, that they were extremely useful in keeping communal, riots away. But unfortunately, what has happened is that recently the same Mohalla committee members said that all their work is coming to naught. They are being, the hate and division has spread so widely and so, terribly, I won't know. I think I remember that novel by Alan Paton in 1948, Cry, the Beloved Country in South Africa. And I say the same about my country. Cry, please cry. I don't know why they are doing it and how it is going to help them, because in the long run, it is not going to help the country.
Cry, my beloved country, says the country's senior-most police officer. in a way, sending a message that perhaps the time has come now for the police and the political leadership and indeed civil society to think about where are they taking this country every time there are clashes like this. What is the message that's sending out? These are not the images that we need in the India of the 21st century. This is not what we want to see in the India of today. We are better than this. Do not bring out the worst in us. Let's try and find out ways to bring out the best in us. It's time that we found ways to get harmony to triumph over hate. Hate mongers, whether they are stone pelters, whether they are people who brandish swords, resort to hate speeches, must be acted against, prosecuted with exemplary punishment, irrespective of which community they belong to. And that cannot just be for the television cameras, that must be acted upon. It's time, my friends, to walk the talk. Thank you all to my police officers for joining me today on this very special police roundtable. I hope someone out there is listening to your sane voices. Thank you all very much for joining me here on the news.